the library, is that a library website? The library website. Anybody just like was here and just stumbled upon it and like decided, oh, let me just go check this out. You guys were all intentional about coming, awesome. Okay, so I know that you just got settled in, but I guess we'll start. Yeah, we got a nice intimate group tonight. So, and please don't hate me. I know you just got settled in, but I'm going to ask you to stand up now, okay? But I promise you it'll be worth it. And if you could just close the door actually for me, that would be great. Okay. So I just want you to take a nice big inhale. Close your eyes and take a nice big inhale. And just sigh the day out, and then another big inhale. Let the day out, another big inhale. Out, and then just keep your eyes closed with some regular breath. And just, I don't know, maybe like shrug your shoulders, stretch them out a little bit, maybe your neck. Just get sort of settled and comfortable in your body. Feel the feet, you feel your feet on the floor and sort of ground yourself into the energy of the earth. And as you keep breathing, I just want you to kind of leave your day outside of the room. So just kind of leave all the stresses of your life outside the room. Leave your job search if that's what you're up to, or your job outside the room. Leave your holiday stress outside the room. And just kind of be present and just get centered and comfortable in your body. And when you're ready, you can slowly open your eyes. And have a seat. Yay, so much better, right? So, as I like to always begin my talks, if you get nothing else out of my talk tonight, it's to remember to breathe. So you see that didn't take a lot of time, didn't take a lot of energy, didn't cost you anything. And do you feel a difference? I hope you feel a difference. So, so what I also like to suggest is every morning that you set yourself up for success. So in the morning, you would take 15 minutes, 5 minutes if you can't do 15 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever you can do, and kind of just sit with yourself, be in your body, take some breath, and maybe you have a cup of tea, a cup of coffee, maybe you have a mantra or a prayer, maybe you have some soft music in the background, just anything so that you connect with yourself and that you start the day with your own intention, your own energy, so that you're in control of your time and your energy, and you don't just kind of get like dragged along. And so, yeah, those are just, you can just take some of the flyers and sign up on the mailing list. So I always recommend doing that in the morning. It's a great way to start your day, and then also when you transition from your day to the evening, great time to do it. Because, during the day, you've been out, craziness has happened, whatever, stresses have happened. So as you come home, or even if you are working at home and you're transitioning from day to evening, I want you to, again, check in with yourself. And when I do it, I actually, in the evening, I like to lay flat on my back, and I do lots of things because they feel good to me and they work, and then I find out later that some science or something proves it. So there is something to that with sort of resetting your nervous system. So I like to do that, and then just kind of let the day roll off of me. And again, just kind of process, reconnect, take some breath, because we're running all the time, mostly up here and sometimes over here, and we're being bombarded with lots of different information and energy. And so you want to reclaim your own thoughts, feelings, energy, and get connected with yourself as much as possible throughout the day, because really that's going to be your key to success, which our talk is called Stepping Stones for Success. And so really, if you take nothing else, it's about connecting to yourself and creating those moments, those conscious moments to check in with yourself. What am I thinking? What am I feeling? What do I need to let go of? What do I need to process? Let me just be in my body for a second, okay? Because it's getting harder and harder to do that, especially, again, with the technology that we're bombarded with, and then also all of us here, we live in New York City, it's a little wackadoo out there, you know, so there's lots of energy, and so we have to remember that we are in control of our energy and our thoughts and our feelings and our time, okay? So, yeah, so how many, I know there's a couple people here, anybody else has seen me speak before? So it's about a couple of you, okay. So yeah, so I've been speaking here, for those of you who don't know, for about 10 years. This is my 10th year, which is crazy. And all of my talks have a very sort of holistic approach to them. So a lot of you, how many people are you guys all job search or in job search mode? Okay, almost everybody here. So and hi Facebook, everybody at home. So I look at job searching and work and really life in a very holistic way. It just so happens that your career, your work, your job is just how we spend most of our time and energy. And so if that's off, everything else is going to be off, and vice versa. So I like to treat everything, so to speak. And I like to address everything from that perspective. So no matter what talk that I'm doing, so those of you who've seen me speak before, I did an authentic branding talk, I do staying motivated throughout the job search talk, I do who are you, what are you supposed to be doing with your life. You'll find that I'm always kind of talking about the same thing, just maybe in slightly different ways or a slightly different angle. And so what I love about this talk, this is a newer talk that I have, that I think the first time I did it was last year. This kind of encapsulates everything into my 9 steps, right? That kind of addresses everything. So, so this is like a fun talk for me to do. So we're a nice small group today, and and I just want to thank you guys for those of you who are going to watch this in the future or at Facebook. We had those alerts on our phones today that were giving us emergency alerts about the weather. So the fact that you all are here, that you braved it out in that snow squall, which I'm not even sure what a squall is. I think it's like a snow thunderstorm or whatever. But the fact that you guys, took the time to be here, really, not only do I appreciate it, because I had to be here regardless, but that really says a lot about you guys, and in terms of that you're really ready to sort of improve your life and really make some change. So I just want to really honor the fact that you guys are here and really hope you understand what a big effort, what that shows to the universe, if you want to think of it that way. Because trust me, we could all be watching them vote on impeaching the president right now, or we could, be snug as a bug in our home with our hot cocoa, but you guys are here because you want to improve your life, improve yourselves, and so I just connect you to that. And I thank you for being here. And so this is also, I like the fact that we're doing this talk now because it's the end of the year, right? And not only is it the end of the year, but it's the end of a decade. And I don't think we, there's so much craziness going on in the world. I don't think we and it's hard because it's well, the 70s were the 70s, and the 80s were the 80s, and the 90s were the 90s, and it's kind of easy to understand decades. But then once we get into the 2000s, it kind of all smushes together on top of everything that's happening, and everything is happening so rapidly. So we are ending a decade. So what a time to sort of think about the past 10 years and how much your life has changed and how much the world has changed. I mean, 10 years ago, I think, right, I just got a BlackBerry, right? Right, so just think about, and I don't, and then just, I think maybe in 2013, maybe I got an iPhone. I mean, just think about just technologically how much has changed. In 2008, barely people knew about Facebook, I think. You know, the college kids were on it, right? I mean, a lot has happened. Twitter, I don't think existed, right? YouTube, was YouTube around then?
It's starting.
It started around then? It's like a lot's happened in 10 years, like a lot. So, so the reason why I think this is a great time to do this talk is, you know, it is this end of the era. It's not only the end of the year, it's the end of the decade, and in my opinion, it's the end of an era. We're going into a time, like especially next year, really transitioning, and I'm sure you could all feel it in your own lives, and you see what's going on in the world in terms of the profound changes that are happening, and upheaval and turmoil that's happening, you know, not only in our country but around the world and with the planet, and in terms of what kind of work there is and what kind of economy we're going to have, and everything is up for transformation and change, and that can be very unsettling, you know, to say the least for most people. So I like, you know, to think about this talk is like, you know, there's all this change, and there's so many things happening so quickly all at the same time that there's no way you can control any of it, right? The only thing that you can control in the midst of this change and chaos and transformation is yourself, right? So what I always like to talk about is like, you know, there's no such thing as security. Like, where's there really security? Because things are just changing so much externally, right? But you can create internal security for yourself. You can develop such a strong connection with yourself, who you are, what you know about yourself, what your feelings are, what your thoughts are, what you know, your talents, passions, interests, what it is that you want to accomplish, create, experience. Like, you have control over that. You have control over how you react to situations and to people and to dynamics, and like, that's what you have control over. And so you can mitigate a lot of the stress and the chaos just simply by your own response and your own reaction. And so again, that's why I think it's so important to do that periodic checking in with yourself, because otherwise it's really easy to go down lots of rabbit holes, right? Whether they're our own creation or whether they're being kind of like, we're being led to go down these rabbit holes for whatever purposes that's going to serve somebody else, right? So we have to like make sure that we're constantly, you know, standing in our own truth, power, whatever you want to call it, right? Yeah. I just go right for the jugular. I'm just like starting out like, you know. So, because I think that we're living in a very consequential time. So we're sort of at like the no joke kind of time. Like, this is what I like to tell people is there's no coincidence, there's no accident that you are who you are at this particular moment in history. Right? It's the end of 2019. You're not 7, and I don't see anyone here. Nobody's like 87, right? So you're like a full-fledged adult at this particular moment in history where so many things are changing, and so you have an opportunity. And not only that, but you have the opportunity, being in one of the more affluent, you know, accessible, you know, there's stuff here. You're not living in the middle of Wyoming, right? No offense to Wyoming, but there's limited things and options and experiences that you can have. So, like, you're here now at this particular moment. So why is that? And so my opinion is, or my philosophy, or I just really believe that we all have a job to do. Right? This is a real big turning point for us as a country, as humanity, as a world. You know, climate change, all of these things. So what is it that you can do to play your part in advancing or evolving how we go forward? And you know, I do believe that one of my sayings is that, personal transformation is the key to social transformation. Gandhi said, be the change you wish to see in the world. To me, we all affect each other, and so like if you just create peace and experience your own full potential, like that, just that, you don't have to be Mother Teresa. Like you don't have to go run for president. You don't have to go change. You just change yourself and you create peace and harmony and fulfillment and abundance and prosperity in your own world, your own sphere of influence. That's what's gonna change everything, right? So it's like the whole, you drop the little pebble and you get the concentric circles in the water, you know what I'm saying? So we all affect each other. And we're energetic people, we're emotional beings. So like you guys, and you know this because if you go home or if you go into your place of work and if someone's in a bad mood, right? Or if someone's really toxic and nasty, do you feel that? Mm-hmm. Do you feel that? Are you affected by that? Okay. And flip it around. Let's say someone comes in and they're like, oh my God, they're so happy, they're really positive, maybe they're in love, maybe they came back from vacation, right? Do you feel that? Do you notice that? So we're contagious beings, right? So we have to be responsible for the energy that we bring to wherever we're at. And that's doing your part. So with everything that's going on, to not be so overwhelmed with, oh, I can't do anything, or feeling powerless. No, you can take care of you and your world. And if you do that, that's gonna help. And then maybe you're the type of person that is meant to do something a little bit bigger or to affect change in a different way. Great, that's your path, cool. But it's just we can all do something. And here's the great news, like when you do something, when you take care of yourself, it is like a win-win because you're making your life better and by default, you're making the world better. So I always like to talk about that. So, and I got all these notes here, okay. So let me just dive right in because we're just talking about taking responsibility. So I have my 9 stepping stones for success. So we'll just go one by one. And the first one, as I just kind of was alluding to, was take responsibility. Did I spell that right? Where are my grammar people? Did I spell that right? Responsibility? I can never spell that right. Okay, thank you. So that's kind of just what I was talking about. It's like, and a lot of folks, especially those who are in career transition, it's easy to blame things, blame the boss that fired you, or blame the economy, or, it's easy to blame other people for your circumstances, and I understand that there maybe are some circumstances, et cetera, but that renders you powerless. So my suggestion, and what I think is the best thing that you can do, is really just take responsibility. So for those of you who are in job transition, I always like to say, the last job you were in, did you really want to be there? And pretty much every hand goes up. No. So, yeah, you might get fired. It might have been bad. You might feel terrible that you're not working out, but you didn't want to be there in the first place. And so just take responsibility for the fact that, you shouldn't have been there in the first place. There were probably plenty of warning signs. You were probably just too scared or comfortable, understandably, to move on your own. And so eventually the universe just gives you the kick in the butt and does it for you, okay? So don't sit there wallowing and having pity for yourself that like, woe is me, I got fired. No, you didn't want to be there anyway, and now this is your opportunity to make the changes that you know you needed to make all along anyway. Done. And that gives you back the power, right, to make the changes that you need to make. And I think, you know, because of technology, because of this world that we're living in, it's easy to relinquish all that power, and also, again, going back to like when you're not connected to yourself, you just get swept up. I mean, social media, you can go down such rabbit holes and lose hours of your life, you know, if you're not disciplined about it. And then also letting that influence color your perception of things, and make you feel bad about yourself and all this kind of stuff. Well, actually, we're going to get up to that in one of the other steps. But so taking responsibility for your life, and what is it that you want, and you know, and then what do you need to do to move in that direction. So you know, it's like one example that I give in my other talk is, you know, think about, you're not gonna be here one day, right? So, you know, what do you want your obituary to say? You know, what is it that at those final moments at the end of your life, what is it that you would have wanted to achieve or to experience or to create? And then that puts things in a certain kind of perspective, and then you can start taking actions. That's sort of like a way to bring, like, if you know, bring everything back. Is this something that is really truly meaningful to me? Is this going to bring me one step closer to what the vision for myself is, or experiencing what I am, or is it pulling me away, or is it, am I too afraid, or whatever it is? So to make sure that you're, you know, you have a certain sense of awareness that you take your life seriously, right? You take your life seriously, and you don't just kind of get sucked into whatever society is telling you, and it's really, we're living in a virtual world more than our actual world often. And we live in, a lot of work that I do with people also is, you know, we live in this sort of virtual intellectual space rather than an emotional, like visceral, like physical space. And it's getting harder because of just everything is just being virtual. And so again, we have to make even more of a conscious effort to, again, connect with ourselves, with our thoughts, with our feeling, and then also with other people in a very authentic, genuine way. And the other thing is, like, take responsibility. Like, what is your version, not what society tells you, not what your parents tell you, what is your version of prosperity and success? That could look different for everyone. So if you are an artist, maybe your version of prosperity and success is making a living doing your art. And that might not be, you know, $1 million a year or getting big bonuses and all that kind of stuff, but you're happy and you're doing your art. And just own that. So it's like own who you are, what it is that you want. And actually we're gonna get up to that also. So and sort of getting back to what I was saying before too, it's like we can't control what happens to us, but we can control how you respond to what happens. And I also want you to think about, in any situation, like, you can choose, are you gonna be a peacemaker or are you gonna be a troublemaker? You have that choice in every situation. So that's a good mantra to have. Am I a peacemaker or are you a troublemaker in this situation?
But doesn't that, I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm, go ahead.
You know, somebody will call me a troublemaker, right? But then other people will say, no, he's doing the right thing. And sometimes it's pretty close to like 50-50%.
So I think it's about your intention, right? Are you right? Because sometimes, you know, we have to fight for what we love, right? So if you just look at fighting in itself, fighting doesn't seem great. You know, that's like sort of But if you're fighting for something that you love and that you need to be defending and passionate about, then that's a positive thing. So I would say it just depends on the intention.
Well, yeah, so it's, all right, so it's really.
Because you have to live
us.
with it, right? I don't really care what anybody thinks. Like, are you bringing the intention of peace or making trouble? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, yeah. Yeah, and not everyone, and so by you trying to make peace, that might actually agitate people, and they would perceive that as being troublemaking. But that's also how you shift the dynamic too. So again, it comes back to sort of your intention to create transformation and change and bring peace and harmony ultimately. But sometimes it's like, we'll talk about detoxing. Like, detoxing is not pleasant. It's not a pleasant, when you're bringing up ickiness, like the ickiness is not pleasant, but the process of it and the releasing of it serves a purpose, right? And the purpose is, and then you're good after. So sometimes those kind of situations have to get a bit ugly first in order for things to clear, and then the peace can be had. So it depends where you are in that process. So anyway, okay, so yeah, and then also just remembering that life is a process and that things don't happen overnight. And so when you take responsibility for yourself, that means knowing that you're on a journey, and that, just like I always say, the acorn doesn't become the oak tree overnight. There's a process, and it's going to look and feel different along the way, and it's over a period of time. So to have patience and persistence about knowing who you are and what you want, and even if you don't really know in a sort of a bigger picture what you want, at least you keep connecting with yourself so that you know the next right step right now. And then trusting that the next right step right now is the right step, and then that's going to lead you to the next step, and that's going to lead you to, and so on and so forth. Because, and especially in times like these, like my personal strategy to deal with a time that's in such turmoil and chaos is like, because it's very easy to get overwhelmed, and especially if you're in job transition, there's a lot of unknowns. What is the next best step? Keep your feet on the ground. What's important today? What's important the next hour, the next 3 hours, tonight? Just be where your feet are. And that's a way to sort of manage the overwhelm. And also, make adjustments, because again, remember, all this stuff is changing out here. So you can only do what you can do because stuff's changing anyway. So you can have some grand plan for yourself, but then, who the heck knows what's going to happen out here. So you also have to, so you have to constantly adapt and change and flow, especially in times that we're living in, I would say. Especially in the times that we're living in. So yeah, so any questions about that? So my second step is, jeez, you're a little dyslexic. Know yourself. So again, all these kind of blend into each other, and so like I was saying before, we each have a unique gift. We each have a unique combination of talents, abilities, interests, passions, experiences, and then combine that with where you grew up, your gender, your physicality, your ethnicity, your race. All of these things play into who you are. And no one is like you, which is kind of mind-blowing. You are literally unique. And so your job, kind of like what I was saying before, I believe we all have a job to do to make this planet better, this country better. Your job is to figure out what that job is, essentially. What's your unique combination? What's your special sauce? What is it that you do that no one can do like you do? Or what's the gift that you mastered, or that you want to master, that you want to develop, what comes naturally to you, or what's the thing that doesn't come naturally to you, but you have like a talent that you can develop. So I always like to give an example of myself is, I always was able to really relate to any kind of person, any type of situation. I just could talk to any, I just can. I can always find a point of connection with whoever I'm talking to. And I realized that's actually not something that everyone can do. So what are the things that you're doing that are like breathing that you don't even think about? And also in terms of listening and all that. So all of that kind of translates a bit into me being a coach, is that I can really get someone and see them and understand them and connect dots for them in a way that most people are just seeing whatever's on the surface, let's say. So that, for me, is like breathing. I don't even think about it. It's natural. I didn't even know it was a thing. Whereas the fact that I'm up here speaking to you with just my ideas about stuff is crazy to me. Because, I'm an introvert, so I didn't talk to anybody today because I knew I was going to be talking to you tonight. And I will talk to nobody tomorrow, probably. I used to be shy. I'm not as shy anymore. But I'm dyslexic, I have not great vocabulary, I'm a terrible technical speaker, I don't have a speaking, I never wanted to be a speaker, but I have something to say that kind of overrides whatever techniques or inhibitions I might have had. Now I've been doing this, for a while now, so I'm more comfortable doing it, but it's still not my comfort zone. This is still not the natural place for me. But I keep doing it because people keep responding in a really positive way. So I just keep doing it, and then I just develop. So I've developed because I keep doing it. And I keep making myself a little uncomfortable, and then you kind of develop. So do you see the difference? So sometimes it's something that's very natural and effortless. So maybe you're the person that, never met an Excel sheet that you didn't like. That would make me crazy. The detail, no.
Pivot
Not
tables.
not my thing. What was that?
Pivot tables.
Yeah, any of that stuff, or maybe someone likes to clean out your closets and help organize. That stuff is just, I would rather get root canal. But that could be breathing. That could be effortless for you. That could be something fun for you even. So. It takes all kinds. So know what your thing is, and then also know what is that thing that you think maybe you could develop. And it's usually the thing that kind of scares the bejesus out of you. So I used to get stiff necks. I used to get coughing, and really, really bad stage fright kind of stuff. Again, but you kind of also pay attention to what the universe is telling. How is the universe responding to you? What is the response that you're getting? And there's some information and some clues there. Also, what did you play as a child? What did you naturally play? Where I used to play teacher. I used to make my brothers do homework. And I ended up, my first job out of college actually was a Spanish teacher in junior high and high school, but that was not for me. But here I am, many, many years later, in front of you, writing stuff on a board and giving you handouts and things. So it can come in all different ways. So yeah, so think about, for you, what's that thing? And when you're thinking about jobs, since most of you here are in job search mode, where is it that you can put that skill to use, right? Or what is a skill that you want to develop? And try to figure out what's a good opportunity for you based on that. Those are two ways to think about what kind of job. Because here's the thing, you can just try to get any job. Oh, I just need a job. But A, that doesn't make any sense because, who's going to hire you? You want to know yourself well enough that you know what you're bringing to the table. That's how you're going to be a really good candidate. That's how you know how you can contribute. That's how you're gonna sell yourself. If you're just throwing spaghetti against the wall and seeing what sticks, well, that's why you're still unemployed. You have to have some kind of a strategy. You have to have some kind of focus. Even if you're not really sure like the exact form, know the essence of what you're looking for. Know the sort of lifestyle that you're looking for. Know the type of work. Do you want to be around people? Do you want to be on Excel all day? Do you want to work in a big corporate environment? Do you want to work in a startup environment? Do you want to do something more administrative? Do you want to do something more sales? Like figure out like the vibe at least of what you're doing, or maybe you don't care what you do and you're sort of talented at lots of things, but you're super passionate about a particular product or service or brand. And you can just do whatever, but because you're doing it for that product, service or brand that you're passionate about, then that's gonna keep you going, give you some motivation and bring you the enthusiasm that you need to get through your day. Because guess what? We spend most of our time working. So again, if that's off, like you're gonna be miserable in other parts of your life, right? So knowing yourself is really important, and then so taking the time to figure out who you are, and then really accepting that and loving that. And now once you really take the time, so maybe when you graduated college, you just sort of fell into a certain path just because that's what your friends were doing or what parents told you to do, or what was the only job at the time. Like maybe you just fell into something, but it wasn't really you. So this is an opportunity for you to recalibrate and realign yourself. And so when you do that kind of process, and one suggestion I like to tell people is to date yourself. So, if you want to get to know yourself better, spend some quality time with yourself. And what I mean by that is not binge watching Game of Thrones or something like that, but really, journaling. Weather's not great now, but like if you could spend some time in nature, take yourself to lunch, take yourself to dinner, if you can do a retreat, spend quality time with yourself so that you start to be comfortable with yourself and get to know who you are and what you like and what you don't like. And try things and experiment and see, let that inform you about yourself. And then what you might find though is you might find, oh, look at me, like I didn't know I was like that. I didn't realize, I'll just give you a little example about, well, I don't know if this is a good example, but like I just recently, for the very first time in my adult life, like I'm sort of helping out on a campaign. I was like, who am I? Like I was never this person before, right? So you discover things about yourself, and when you discover those things, it might be very different from how you were before, or it might be drastically different from the expectations of your parents or your peers, and that can be a little uncomfortable, right? If you want to go in a different direction, or if you want to express yourself in a different way. So it really takes courage to be who you are, and it takes courage to be comfortable in your own skin and to do what feels right to you. It's no small feat, that's why, but that's also why, most people are not very happy, right? And we have a lot of we have a lot of addiction, right? And, or, ways that people are not, because they're not being authentically true to themselves and who they are and what they want and how they want to be experiencing life. Because it's, quite frankly, it's easier to kind of go to sleep, right? And just kind of like sleepwalk through life, but then you're kind of always like having that nagging feeling. Now, the fact that you all, like I said, made it through the snow squall and are here, I know you guys are not those people. So when you take the time to know yourself, and part of that is getting to a place of self-acceptance, and with that comes self-worth and self-love. And those are much deeper levels of connection with yourself, but that's really where the courage and the confidence comes from. So, the more you can work on developing that, or that part of yourself, and really appreciating who you are, right, without needing anybody else's approval, whether it's society's approval, or your parents' approval, or your spouse's approval, or your kids' approval, anybody. But to have that, and I think this is an epidemic that we have, and I would say the majority of the clients that I work with, this is kind of a root issue for people, because it's a root issue in our society. You know, we've had dysfunctional people raising dysfunctional people, working with dysfunctional people. You know, no one's really taking care of the healing that we need to do, and addressing the emotional pain that we might have had, or traumas that we might have had, and therefore it's becoming lodged in us, and it's expressed in unhealthy ways. Anyway, that's kind of a whole other topic. But so knowing yourself is really one of the most important things that you could do. And I think I put take responsibility first, because you have to, first of all, make the commitment to want to know yourself. You have to be like, oh, this is all on me, right? This is all on me. No one's coming to fix my life or, take care. So I have to first of all say, like, oh, I'm responsible for my own life, right? I have control over my own time and energy. Okay, now let me see who the heck I am. And then that gets the responsibility to do the work. Because it's work, right? I mean, I'm putting it in quotes, but like it takes effort, right? It takes attention, it takes focus, it takes time that you have to consciously, dedicate to that. And a lot of people don't do that, right? It's much easier to turn on the TV or to go on Instagram or, so if you do that, like, you're way ahead of the game. You're way ahead of the game. Right, so I give a talk called Authentic Branding, Letting the Real You Shine in Any Situation, and so I always like to give this quote, because it's about really being authentic, and also about being authentically who you are is going to help you no matter what. It's going to, because you don't want to be in a relationship if you're not yourself. You don't want to work at a job who doesn't, where they don't appreciate you or get you. You just don't want to do that. So it's just, I think honesty is the best policy. Being yourself is the best policy. Let the cards fall where they may, right? So I have a great quote. So Deepak Chopra, you guys all know Deepak Chopra, right? Was on Conan's show, Conan O'Brien. And so he had just been in Las Vegas, and so Conan's kind of making a joke about it. I'm like, oh, Deepak in Las Vegas, huh? How was that? He's like, oh, I love it. And Deepak's like, I love Las Vegas. It's one of my favorite places. And Conan's like, he's like, really, Deepak? Las Vegas? And Deepak goes, Conan. He goes, Las Vegas is one of the most spiritual places on the planet. And Conan thinks it's a joke, right? And he's like, no. He goes, it does not pretend to be anything that it's not.
That makes sense.
So Las Vegas is one of the most spiritual places on the planet because it does not pretend to be anything that it's not. Boom, right? I was like, yes. I was like, you should write that down. Right? So that's a really good image to have in your head, right? Deepak talking to Conan O'Brien about Las Vegas, if you ever forget. So any questions about that? Let's see. So number 3. Okay. Let's see. Stay in your own lane. So what do you think I mean by that? Don't go down the Instagram rabbit hole. Right? Don't look on Facebook and think everybody else is having some fabulous life and you're not. I'm not saying this is easy to do, by the way, because we're human and it's just kind of how we work. But you have to remember that people are not posting stuff when they're like crying on the bathroom floor, hating their life in agony, okay? They're not posting that. And you have to remember, people are posting moments. And they can be very staged moments, right? And they can be very, very staged moments with lighting and angles and filters and things like that. So, I get it. It can be very deceiving. I mean, this rule, this step would be applicable at any time, but I think it's, again, because of the times that we're living in, even more important and more, you have to be much more aware and conscious about it. There's a great quote by Teddy Roosevelt. He says, "Comparison is the thief of joy." That's a good one. Comparison is the thief of joy. And another quote that I love is Jordan Peterson, and he says, compare yourself to your yesterday, not someone else's today. So compare yourself to your yesterday, not someone else's today, because you have no idea what kind of journey that person has been on, and you're seeing them in a moment, but you don't know what they had to go through to get to that moment. And they have their own unique path, and you've got your unique path. And so it's sort of like, and so I think I gave this example on one of my other talks, is like, I've been doing this. I mean, I've been coaching. This is my more than 12 years I've been coaching. I only put up a Facebook page for myself like 2 years ago, and I only started putting on YouTube videos last year because I was just terrified of putting myself out there. Now, you all know that that's not even an issue for a lot of people, right? They're just like plastering themselves out there. So for me, I like the fact that I have him, do a plug, go on all my social media, please, like, follow, subscribe. But the fact that I have like my face and my voice and my video, and I mean, that was a huge hurdle for me to get over. Now, the quality's not great, I could criticize all of it, especially when you compare it to other, people who do similar things out there. But like, you know what? For me, it was a huge thing. For them, it was, it was like nothing. It was like blinking. They couldn't do it more than, they couldn't have more videos out there. So there's no point in comparing. None whatsoever. And also, like stay in your lane. You can also think of it like stay in your own movie. So there could be someone, so you want to be the director, writer, producer of your own movie, right? Your own life, and you're going to be at different places in different times in your own movie. And so you could just be catching someone at a different plot point in their movie, right? So they could just be at the lovey-dovey moment. You didn't see the hell that they just went through, or the horror that they just went through to get to that place. You don't know. And I also think that, like, we all handle stress in life differently, and because I work with so many people and, and obviously observe my own life, my friends, what's happening, like, everybody's struggling. So there's another great quote, be kind, everyone is fighting their own battle. And so, you might excel, so you might observe someone and they might really excel in one area. Maybe they're great at business, let's say, but they really struggle with relationships, or they struggle with food. So again, it's like this thinking that everybody's got it all together. It doesn't exist, trust me. Yeah.
Can I ask, it may be a little bit of a too personal question, but so 12 years you were doing great, and you were a coach, and you were doing all these things, and then what was the breaking point for you to go on YouTube or? I would say that I practice what I preach, and that I believe everything's organic and kind of happens. It's a process, and it happens kind of in time and on time. So look, just like everybody else, I got my own personal growth issues. You teach what you need to learn. So the things that I'm teaching about self-love, self-acceptance, all of those kinds of things certainly apply to me. And Yeah, well, it's actually a bigger question that is a little personal that I'm trying to decide if I want to talk about. But you know, there's something about being seen. So I have some issues about being seen and all of that. And so I came to a place. I think it was in 2013, where I was like, I can't progress if I don't get over this thing. And so you know how I dealt with it? This is how I started. So remember, I only put on YouTube, we're in 2019, so 2018, I think last spring is when I put YouTube videos up. But in 2013, I had never even posted stuff on Facebook. Like I had a Facebook account, but I would never even post. And so my little like exercise for myself was to start posting pictures of myself on Facebook with friends, right? So I have a private account, so these are only within friends. But even doing that was a big thing. But that was my baby step. So I started putting some pictures about myself, and then and then then I got more comfortable with that, more comfortable. And then I would say, and then it was interesting in 2016 about using my voice and my opinion. Obviously 2016, there was a lot of things going on in the country politically, and I decided to have an opinion about things and start posting and start trying to sort of model having dialogue with people rather than yelling at each other. Because if you go think back to 2016, how hard it was on Facebook sometimes. So anyway, again, it was just like baby steps of just getting more comfortable about putting myself out there, putting my image or my voice out there. And then really I have to give it up to the library too, because they started doing these Facebook Live things. And so I said, all right, well, here we go. And then just, getting comfortable with it. I still don't love it. I still, trust me, very self-critical and everything like that. But again, I've had people tell me, oh, I watched your video on YouTube and it was helpful. So I can't, that has to override my own stupid insecurities, because if it's helping someone, it's helping someone. So that is also what helps me, just keep going. But like I just told you, like a lot. Like for other people, they wouldn't even think twice about posting their whole life on Facebook, and then talking to the camera all the time every week to people. That just wasn't me. So it goes back to knowing yourself and knowing what you needed to do and what I needed to do to grow, and having the courage to do it. So I hope that answers your question. Okay. Yeah. Oh, and so there's another great quote about staying in your own lane. So I never know how to say this. The Bhagavad Gita, right? Ancient Indian yogic text says, "It is better to live your own destiny imperfectly than to live in imitation of somebody else's life with perfection." Right? So it's better to live your own destiny imperfectly than to live in imitation of somebody else's life with perfection. You gotta just do you. You have your own lessons to learn, karmas to heal, things to experience, things to create. Like, it's just, you just gotta do you. You just gotta do you, and everyone has to do themselves, and that's all we can ask for. Because again, it goes back to that what I talked about before, is like we all have a unique combination of gifts, skills, abilities, talents, and so like our job is just to be the fullest expression of who we are, because that means the world's going to benefit. So again, you have no business looking at anybody else, because they've got their job to do and you have your job to do. They've got your path, they have their path, you have your path. Yeah. And this is my own quote, I guess. I wrote, "Strive for achievement in the absence of comparison." Right? So having your own motivation for achievement that has nothing to do with like, well, I'm going to do better because so-and-so's doing this, right? But to have your own self-motivation to achieve for yourself. Set your own goals for your own reasons. Okay.
Yeah.
In the absence of what?
Comparison. So strive for achievement in the absence of comparison. And you can attribute that to me. Okay, so. And this, by the way, this also goes to like, you know, advertising, right? Or this is, I don't know why this is coming to me right now. This is such a pet peeve of mine. You know, you like look at like styles, like fashion styles and like hairstyles and things like that, and it's like, or no, my point about this is like, do you ever watch, you know, like on the Today Show, they do like the makeovers? Or like any makeover show, this sort of drives me nuts. They're always taking someone and they always make them over, and the makeover version is always the same. Like, it doesn't matter who it is, right? Like, they're always like, but I'm like, that has nothing to do with who this person is, really. You know what I'm saying? It drives me nuts. So it's like, what is Vogue telling you that's beautiful or that's cool, or this is maybe more of a women's thing, but, you know, it's like, what is advertising telling you is the right thing or the wrong thing or the better thing? It's like, no, like, just choose your own, whatever, like, is what you like. Who cares if it's like cool or, I don't know. You guys know what I'm talking about, right? Okay, so. So listen to yourself. So again, like I said, we always come back to taking that time, connect with yourself. Those anchors the day that I mentioned, so the 10, 15 minutes in the morning, the 10 or 15 minutes when you come home and transition, those are good anchors so that you can listen to yourself. Yeah, and so, and you know, I've sort of mentioned this already, but like, pay attention to what kind of diet you're feeding yourself mentally, emotionally, and like visually. So like, are you watching really violent stuff all the time, or like the movies and the TV programs that you're watching super violent or super catty, you know, like the Real Housewives, you know, like fine, once in a while we need our sort of diversion and guilty pleasure, but like, what is the majority of what you're feeding yourself, even in your social media feeds? What's the general vibe? Are they positive things? Are they angry things? Are they sarcastic things? Take responsibility, monitor that for yourself, because that's coming in, right? That's getting into you on some level. What are you reading? You know, are you reading things that are uplifting and positive, enlightening, educational? What are you reading? Like, what are you feeding your mind and your emotions? And obviously diet, you know, but that's a whole other topic. But here's what happens though. So when you start to, and going back to the thing that I was talking about with detoxing. So when I talk about detoxing, right, you think about it on one level, physical detox. So whether it's something as serious as like heroin or drugs or something like that, and you have to detox that, right? That's rough. But, you know, or if you're doing like food detox, right? So maybe you're just taking some time off of meat or whatever, or you're not gonna have alcohol for a couple weeks, fine. So you're detoxing that. But I'm also talking about mental detox and emotional detox. And so the mental detox is a little bit about what I just talked about in terms of what you're feeding yourself, content-wise. And emotionally is that as well, because we respond to things emotionally, but also what people you're around, what kind of people and relationships you're allowing yourself to interact with. And a way to help detox yourself emotionally is to allow yourself to feel your feelings when they come up, which prevents a backup that needs to be detoxed. So what do I mean by that? So, you know, we live in a society that's pretty much emotionally constipated. And so because we don't allow ourselves to feel our feelings when they come up, so everything gets all backed up, right? And this is stuff, I'm talking about stuff, you know, we can go really way back to childhood and things like that. So if you haven't processed a lot of those feelings, they're still in you somewhere, running the show somehow. So, you know, when you start to spend this quality time with yourself, you might start to feel some stuff, and I want to encourage you to allow yourself to feel whatever comes up and to just feel it and let it go, because that means you're detoxing. You don't always need to know what the feeling is or what the emotion is, but sometimes it's helpful. So if it's something more current and you get a feeling, then that feeling's probably trying to tell you something. So, you know, so I talk about a lot of times left brain, right brain. So if you were only had your left brain ability, right? Let's say you had a stroke in your right brain. You would get analysis paralysis, because you guys know the difference between right brain and left brain. Left brain is more analytical, logical, A to B to C. Right brain, intuitive, creative, more collaborative. You know, left brain linear, left brain masculine, right brain feminine. Has nothing to do with gender. Okay. Anyway, so if you lost your ability in your right brain, you would never be able to make a decision, because you would just be in analysis paralysis. So you need emotion, energy, and motion to take action. Okay? So you want to be able to access those feelings. So when a feeling or emotion comes up, see what it's trying to tell you. It's trying to tell you something. Like, why do we have feelings or emotions if they didn't serve a purpose? Think about that. So, but if you're in a detox place, some stuff, like you could be feeling emotions that you don't even know what the heck they are, and that's okay too, because it could just be some old stuff that just never got to get expressed. And so just let it out, cry, scream, whatever, you know, appropriately. But, you know, give them the light of day, and you will feel better. You know, people are so afraid to feel their feelings and feel the pain. And again, I'm not saying it's fun necessarily, like if you're really going through a deeper, you know, emotional detox, but you have to, what is it? Not no pain, no gain, but like, you have to walk through it. You can't keep going around it. You kind of got to go through it and experience it, and then keep going and like let that grow you and heal you. This is a whole other topic. I feel like I'm rambling a little bit, but the point is, it's like if you can't, like this, it's connected to listening to yourself, because you can't hear yourself if you're kind of all blocked up emotionally or mentally. So that's why it's kind of important to keep monitoring yourself and keep an awareness of what's going on, and again, going back to those two anchors, like what are you thinking, what are you feeling, what needs to process, what do you need to just release? And a release could just be cry, release could be a little scream, release could be, you know, physically, you know, doing some punches or something like that, you know, like, so what is it to move the energy through you? Because the other thing too is that we are inundated with, because remember we talked about we're all contagious to each other. So sometimes you might be feeling stuff that's not even your own feelings too. So that's why those check-ins are important, because it's also like, you know, discerning, like, am I feeling this, or is this just stuff that's like out there that I'm sort of like picking up? Anyway, so so this is super important. This is super important. So number 5. Okay. So I know this seems like kind of like trite or a given, but it's really hard, and especially the sort of toxic environment that we've been living in lately. And also you have to remember, I don't think we realize what the whole Wi-Fi, 5G's coming, like there's
stuff that's going through the air energetically that I don't think we realize how that's affecting us. So in other words, you know, like times like these, especially like politically, racially, blah, 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 there's a lot of, you know, energy that's around us. And so this is kind of revolutionary these days, you know, to make a conscious decision, again, to be kind and to be compassionate. And I would say what's even more important is for you to be kind and compassionate to yourself. Because what happens is we're often our own worst enemies. And we often beat ourselves up more than anybody else will beat us up. So to really be kind and compassionate to yourself, super, super important. Because if you can't be kind and compassionate to yourself, it's going to be very hard to be kind and compassionate to other people, and certainly to strangers. So, well, how do you do that? You know, a lot of it comes back to all this stuff, you know, and the listening to yourself, and to understanding that everyone's in their own movie, right? And that you have your own path, and you can control your response to things. So, but with yourself, it goes back to that self-love, and to be gentle and compassionate with yourself. And you know, we are on a journey, and we're going to make mistakes. We're going to make some wrong turns, and to be able to be forgiving to yourself. So forgiveness is a huge thing. So you know, you can do a written exercise. Is something that I often suggest to my clients. You would write, let's say, I, Kristina, forgive myself for. And so whatever comes up, and that's a great way to do some emotional detox, by the way, because then stuff comes up, and then you gotta let yourself feel whatever comes up, and then you let it go. Forgiving just means letting go. So that's a great way of letting stuff out. And then whenever you do that exercise, you always want to end with, I love myself, I love myself, I love myself. Because nature abhors a vacuum, right? So if you're gonna like forgive, which means letting go, you're getting rid of all this stuff, you got to replace it with something positive. So I love myself, I love myself, I love myself. And if you don't believe it, you fake it till you make it. Okay? Yeah, because this is going to be hard to do if you can't do this. Okay? So, what's my time? Oh God, okay. So go with the flow. Do you guys know about Wu Wei? It's like a Taoist, you know, Taoism, yin yang, you know, Taoism. Wu Wei is about, it's hard to describe, but you can Google it. But it's about non-action. So it's about going with the ebb and flow of things. And so this is another way to sort of mitigate the stresses of your life. And when you're in touch with yourself, it's going to be easier. It's like surfing, right? So in other words, there's all these waves out there. One second. But if you are connected and secure and of yourself, then you just kind of like surf the waves, and you don't try to fight all the time. So going with the flow to me has to do with knowing when to move forward and assert yourself, and knowing when to just be like, okay, I'm just going to ride this out. Because you don't always want to be fighting, because life doesn't work like that. There's an ebb and there's a flow. And so when you're in tune with yourself, it's easier to kind of tap into when is the right time to make a move, and when is the right time to just kind of let this go. You know, and it's also about like knowing, and this is like in knowing yourself of like, when is your best energy time? So when you're trying to get stuff done, so like in the mornings, like I'm terrible in the mornings. I can get a lot more stuff done in the evening. So I will adjust myself as much as possible to go with my own flow, because I know what my flow is. I know when I can maximize my energy. So, you know, to the best of your ability that you can adjust your schedule and activities to go with your own flow, that's also really helpful. So that's sort of like two different ways to think about it. And to also to understand that there are cycles in life. And so you might be in a very like internal cycle. So a lot of the work and the productivity is internal. So you're not going to see some stuff on the outside, and to be okay with that. And then you'll be through another phase, there'll be another cycle where it's a lot of activity externally. And to just understand that there is a flow, there's an ebb and a flow, there are cycles to life. And to, again, I was going to go back to those two anchors. If you keep checking in with yourself, you'll know what feels right for you at any particular moment. And also, you could be in one of those internal cycles, but your bestie could be an external cycle. So again, it doesn't make sense to compare because you're both in different cycles. Okay. And it really helps mitigate the stress. You know, it really helps mitigate the stress because if you just have a certain amount of faith in yourself and trust in the process and trust in something greater than yourself that's kind of in control. You know, that's what's in control. We're not really in control. So kind of working with that, I think is, again, this is you know, you can really go deep into that too. But if you do this stuff, it's going to be easier to do that. Yeah. So, okay. And if you want to learn more about this, you can Google Wu Wei or like the Tao Te Ching with the translation by Stephen Mitchell is my favorite.
What'd you say, New Way?
Yeah, Wu Wei.
Wu Way.
Tao Te Ching. Okay, by Stephen Mitchell is mine. It's all translated, you know, this is written like a gazillion years ago. Okay, 7. How many of you guys do that? Or forget to do it? You do, okay, good. So learning for, like, you know, what does Einstein say?
Same thing over and over again as a definition, one definition of insanity.
Right, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. Okay? So you want to learn, like, what are the patterns? Like, what do you keep just going over and over again, and you're just not getting it? So, you know, in a job situation, you can, I always like to say, you know, you go same boyfriend, different clothes, right? So you can have an abusive boss or a toxic workplace, and you think, oh, let me get out of this job, and you go right to the next job, and it's the same scenario, okay? So what is it that you need to learn? What's the common denominator? You, okay? So what is it that you need to learn, right? When these things keep happening over and over and over and over and over again. Learn from your past, figure out what is the pattern and break the pattern. That's all the situations we're trying to do is get you to break the pattern. So again, you know, if you're not doing this stuff, if you just think, if you don't take responsibility, you just think you're a victim, right? You're just like, you know, the winds of fate just can take over, right? If you don't, take the time to really be with yourself and listen to yourself, you're not going to have the awareness. You're not going to be able to sort of detach and have an objective viewpoint because you're just always just going to be caught up in it. Does that make sense? But if you do this stuff, you'll be able to, you'll be a faster learner, right? They'll see the patterns quicker. So it's just, and I think just in general, what's really helpful is to start observing yourself. So be the divine observer in your own life. Instead of just being always caught up in everything, you know, if whatever the situation is, whether it's a work situation, a relationship situation, or a health situation,
whatever it is, you're in that situation for a reason. And, you know, taking responsibility for whatever your part is in that situation, but then also trying to understand what is the lesson that I need to learn, what is the growth that I need to have as a result of being in this situation. But in order to do that, you gotta kind of step out a little bit and look at it like that. Does that make sense? Because if you're just in it, you're just in it. But if you can kind of like, remember with those two anchors, right? You keep coming back. In those two anchors, think about, okay, so this situation sucks. You know, what is my part in this? What do I need to learn from this situation? And see if that helps you get out of it and deal with it in a different way, and then you break the pattern. Okay. And yeah. So obviously, and like as we mature and age, this also, hopefully we get wiser, right? Hopefully, as we mature. So okay, so number 8. We forget to do this sometimes. Certainly with rest, right? I feel like a lot of people have a really hard time sitting still and resting. Either they feel guilty or they just can't. They just can't sit still. And so that's why all this stuff is important too, to get you in the place where you can listen to your body and rest when you need to and be okay with it. Even though the world says you should be doing X, Y, Z, your body is telling you to do A, B, C, and you do A, B, C, and then you're better, and then you can get back up and get going again. And so, you know, resting is recharging your batteries. We can't keep on. We have to recharge. And obviously, you know, that's helpful for our immune system, and, you know, there's all sorts of physiological benefits to doing that. But again, you know, I'm talking a little bit more on the mental and emotional level. Like, give it a break, right? Give it a break. Give it a break. Give your body a break, and have fun. I feel like it's been a rough road for everybody for a while now, and so and we're having less and less, you know, like interactions in real life, and so I think it's important, especially when you're in sort of job transition. You think that you have to just punish yourself because you're not working, but there's lots of things that you could do for free, and allow yourself to laugh. Laughter is the best medicine. Connect with friends. Do things that give you pleasure. It doesn't have to cost a lot of money. But this is super, super important to make sure that that's part of, you know, your overall, it's an important component to make sure that you're putting some energy towards. Okay? I mean, sometimes sometimes the rest, you know, I have a couple of essays that I've written about this, which is, by the way, if you sign up to be on my mailing list, you'll get my essays, and there's 131 of them in my book. You know, sometimes it's if you've had a very stressful period, you might not be sick, but you're just worn down mentally and emotionally, let's say, and physically too, and you just gotta let your body rest. And sometimes it happens to me, I'm like resting, I'm like, well, I didn't really do anything, why am I, and it's a preemptive rest. It's like, it's preparing me for something that I might even really be aware of how crazy life is gonna get, but it's like, but my body is like, let's just charge you up a bit. So again, it's about listening to yourself. And this is also helps you go with the flow, because it's about managing your energy, right? So, okay, anybody have any guesses about what number 9 is, the last one? What's sort of a major life component that I left out here, what do you think? That could really help you be successful, help you have a better life.
What about partnership with others in terms of how interaction with community and or external persons, others?
Well, that's a little bit of like, this is more about you being in control of yourself to be able to interact with people better, yeah. But there's like a tool, I don't know what I want, I guess a step is what I'm calling it. Or practice, and then how about a practice? I call it a practice. to be grateful. Right, so do you guys have a gratitude practice? You guys, I know a lot of people do like a gratitude journal. Every day you write down 5 things that you're grateful for. But even in like the toughest times, this is a really important practice. It will help you focus on the positive. And it's, you know, the fact of the matter is that you have a pulse. You're breathing right now, right? You just feel your heart. Everybody feel their heart. You feel it? And you don't even realize, like, you're alive. Like, your heart's beating, and it's like, you're alive. So just be grateful for that. If you can't find anything else to be grateful for, just do that. And, you know, sometimes, and especially, it's just acknowledging, again, that there's something greater than yourself that's in control. And, you know, you can trust yourself and trust that thing that's greater than yourself and trust the process. And there's a gazillion of books and studies and things about this, but you know, the more grateful that you are, the more things come to be grateful about, right? So what you focus on grows. When you resist persists. There's all these different expressions, but to really find gratitude in even, God bless you, even the problems, because remember what I said here about like those situations that you're in that are like, well, what can you learn from them? And then be grateful for the lesson. So I sent out an essay, I call them PGGs, called Thank the Turkeys Too. So it's about thanking the people who drive you completely bonkers because they're trying to show you something, they're trying to teach you something. I just had an example recently with a client of like a boss or something. Well, like that boss is making her really have to deal with her own communication issues. You know, like these annoying things often are there to help you grow. So even like thank the turkeys too, the people, the pain in the ass people or situations. There's a reason and a benefit from them, and even you know, the boss that fired you that you hated, like thank them, because that boss now is giving you the opportunity to do all this stuff. So thank the boss. Okay? Yeah, so I think, and I'll do a few questions, but I think that this is like not an overnight take a pill and you're better the next day. Like this is just some principles to live by and to try to start incorporating into your life. And again, especially because of the times that we're living in, that are so unpredictable and they're so transformative and things are happening so quickly on so many different levels. Like I just truly feel that it's so important for everyone to do as much of this stuff as possible, because again, not only are you going to survive and navigate things in a way that's you know, a bit easier and more pleasant, you know, but this is going to also contribute to not everyone losing their freaking minds, you know. Like we have to take responsibility for getting us through this very transformative time. So I'll leave you with one last quote, but before I do that, I'm just going to hand these out, and then also remind you to sign up to be on my mailing list. And if you want to work with me one-on-one, I can help you with some of this stuff. There's flyers about some discounts, or you can talk to me after. I have some group coaching once a month. Make sure you sign up, do all the social media. So what I like to do in my talks is whatever you really want to remember, like maybe out of these 9 things, there's like 1 or 2 that you really want to focus on, and there's something that you really want to take away.
I'd like to give you a little doodad to remember. So these are little stones. So this is a little stepping stone for your success. So to keep that with you and to let it sort of solidify and remind you whatever you need to be reminded of on that. So you can take one and pass them down. Because it's easy. Once you, like, this is all concentrated right now. Once you go back into your real life, it's going to be all you know. So that's like a little touchstone. So I have a great quote from Warren Buffett. Would you guys think that Warren Buffett is a successful person?
Yeah.
He's pretty successful. So here's his quote. So he says, basically, when you get to my age, you'll really measure your success in life by how many of the people you want to have love you actually do love you. That's the ultimate test of how you have lived your life. The trouble with love is that you can't buy it. But the only way to get love is to be lovable. The more you give love away, the more you get. So I just love that quote, because at the end of the day, that's what it's really about. And so as you end this year, take some time to reflect about maybe some of the things that you were able to do, and then maybe this is a good time as you think about going into this next year, the next decade. This maybe is a good sort of blueprint or a map for you to align yourself with, and let me know how it goes. So please be in touch. Thank you so much for coming out once again, and I hope to see you next year. Thank you. And I'll take questions as we sort of, if you need to ask me questions, I can do that, but I know they're going to kick us out soon, so.
I didn't finish the quote halfway. Compare yourself to yesterday. What was the
Oh, compare yourself to your yesterday,
right?
not someone else's today.
Thank you. Is that your quote? Do you think-
Oh, no, that's Jordan Peterson. No. Must attribute quotes to where they need to be attributed.
You're a coaching person, isn't Peterson?
Jordan Peterson is, he's a psychologist.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, you can find a ton of stuff on YouTube.
Yeah. That's very well said.
It's a good one. It's a really good one. So, yes.
So what is your Tuesday talk group coaching?
So that's group coaching. So, it's a way to get some coaching for me. Obviously, I can work with you privately one-on-one.
Okay.
But group coaching is, I usually have, 3 people to 5 people. And everybody kind of brings whatever, issues they're working on. And it's kind of cool because you get to listen to everybody